You're listening to a Mash Those Buttons podcast. Visit mashthosebuttons.com for a full podcast schedule.
Guardian? Where's up, Guardian?
Hello and welcome to the 69th episode of In Orbit, Mash Those Buttons podcast dedicated to Destiny and to you, the Destiny community. Wherever you are and whenever you're listening to our show, we thank you as always for making this show a part of your Destiny experience. My name is Jorge, and on today's show we have Carmine. Say hi, Carmine.
Hello, everyone. Really excited to be here.
I'm glad that you're here on the show. He's a great friend of mine. And before we even get to talk about Carmine, I just want to make sure that all of you out there are checking out all the other killer podcasts available here on the Mash Those Buttons network at www.mashthosebuttons.com. Get involved with us in InOrbit by sending us questions to inorbitpodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter at inorbitpodcast. On today's show, we're going to be going over Destiny 2, a little bit more theory crafting, but I want to get it from a perspective from a gamer who may not be as invested as I am. I want to get another person's thought process on this game, and they're really deep thoughts on this game. We'll also go over the TWAB quickly and any other minor news. There's not much this week. Basically, everything was revealed last week, and we're kind of on autopilot until E3. But before we get started, Carmine, go ahead and tell the people about yourself.
Well, I'm Carmine. I've been playing Destiny since the alpha. Love the game. Been playing a long time. Part of the Fireteam chat community on Facebook, which I actually founded, created, and built up with my help of all the admins on the page, which is actually how I came to meet you, Jorge. And which was originally Technodrome, and we kind of moved on from there. But currently today, for about last 6 to 8 months, been working on some YouTube content, not just for Destiny, but general gaming, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, a wide variety. We actually just discuss different topics every single week on our own podcast. Our podcast is the Cartridge Blast Gamers podcast. And it's something where we look at pretty much 3 topics every single week. The ones that we feel are the most important, and the one that brings out the ones that bring out the most conversation. Mm-hmm. And so that's pretty much where I'm at right now. We did do a conversational topic for the Destiny 2 reveal, and it's up on YouTube. You can check it out on the Cartridge Blast Gamers page, and you can look at kind of my responses to what I saw. But I feel like just talking with you, Jorge, we kind of were excited, but very skeptical at the same time once the first reveal came out. So I just wanted to kind of know, where are you kind of at right now? Are you starting to get a little bit more excited now that we have more information? Or is it something where you're still kind of hesitant?
So, I mean, in terms of Destiny content, I'm always going to be excited. I think this game is fantastic, at least from what I've experienced with Destiny 1. I think it's an absolute fantastic game that, because of the limitations of the community within Destiny 1, the actual game, it kind of forced us to be more involved and find other ways, other tools to get involved with the game. So I think that that's one big thing that is going to be tough to replicate in Destiny 2. Just the amount of world building outside of the game. For example, I know that when you founded Fireteam Chat community on Facebook, a lot of people use that to hook up with other players around the world to get to do the raids for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the new LFG system, that it's not a full LFG, but the new system that Bungie put in, guided games, it's going to be a lot more different for these solo players, and I see this as both a good thing and a bad thing. And I know people are like, how can you possibly see this as a bad thing? Because we were forced to kind of make our own communities and take ownership of creating LFG.
Yeah,
we got more invested in this game. When I find it that when we're more invested in putting our groups together, we care more about the game. And my concern is, and it's weird to have this kind of concern, but my concern always will be, how is the community going to come together when it comes to Destiny 2? Because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, I could just get somebody, do something real quick with this group, and then I'm going to leave and go offline.
Yeah, that is a really interesting outlook, because if you look at kind of, what you've created from different clans, the community that you play with, that I play with now, it's something interesting to look at, in a sense of, would we have met and been playing this game, or anybody been playing with each other, if we didn't have to go out there and find people? If it was just kind of given to us, would we have built that kind of relationship where it is something that we depend on one another to go in and do events every single week?
Right.
So the question would have been, would I have actually created FTC and found the mods and built the group up and tried to get people into raids and different events, and, everything that you've done and all the chirping that you've done, would that have been a thing if we had guided games when Destiny 1 came out? So I think it's very intriguing to think about what that kind of means for Destiny 2 and going forward, and whether or not this community is going to get bigger, or just kind of handed to you in the sense of they're going to find teams for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting predicament, because you definitely want some sort of LFG. Okay, how do I want to put that? I have to slow down. I definitely want everybody out there, not just the people who listen, the hardcore, the people who kind of pass over our podcast, people who don't even know about our podcast, just people who are out there who pick up the game for the first time. I am always going to be defending their ability to at least attempt to do things.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, like, to put it in a different perspective, this October, I'm going to be going to Nebraska to visit a friend for the very first time for his wedding. His name is Nick.
Yep.
Nick, hey, I don't know if you're listening or not, but hey.
Shout out to Nick.
But like, I'm thinking, it's like, I never would have talked with Nick, or never would have played with Nick, or even have gone to his wedding. He wouldn't have even known who I am, had it not been for the brief moment that we had through an LFG site. And the reason that LFG site was created was because Bungie didn't have their own in-game LFG. So we met that one time. We had a blast. We added each other on on our friends list. I joined their clan. Then they joined my clan when that clan disbanded or whatever. And like, we built up a relationship just from that initial experience from that LFG site. Now we can there's always a chance to have a similar experience from these guided games. I mean, I'm hoping I think Bungie's hoping for a similar experience. They want that experience that we went through.
Yeah.
But I always think, like, if everything was automatic in the game, would we possibly have ever met up? And I honestly believe maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have become a Sherpa. Maybe I would have been happy, being dragged through the raid.
Or
Maybe
just,
I
hanging on to like a group of 10 or 12 people that you kind of consistently play with.
yeah. So it's again, we're not saying that we don't want LFG. It's just an interesting way to look at things with regards to the game. Just the smallest things that we take for granted, like the DestinyLFG.com or .net, whichever one you choose, the Planet Destiny website, the Fireteam Chat podcast, fan page on Facebook, all these different things that we take advantage of. Would we have built up these things if there was more involvement from Bungie with regards to these websites? Like, let's say they created their own Facebook group and they created an in-game LFG. Like, most likely a lot of people that we know that we met up with throughout these 3 years probably would not have been there. I mean, it's weird to think like how much you and I and our friend Justin, David,
Kevin.
not the David that hosts the show, but Kevin,
the
my
David, as we call it.
Yeah, I probably never would have met David, our co-host on the show, or Jordan, my other co-host on the show, had it not been for these websites.
Yeah.
And would these websites have existed if Bungie created their own external thing? Probably not. It's a weird dichotomy that we're in. Like, we love to be able to access this content in game, but it's weird to know that we probably never would have, even gotten this close had it not been for the inability, quote unquote, of Bungie to do such things.
The shocking element of it is that in this day and age with video games, I feel like a lot of people have kind of always fallen back on like the hand holding of a community or playing game or matchmaking and that sort of a thing. And when you look at all the pages that have been created, or LFG, or the 100IO, people had to go out and seek that. Where in other games, it's interesting to think about, would any other game have actually held our attention enough to actually want to go and experience the full experience of Destiny? So it's just really, really, really interesting looking at this time. And I feel like it's kind of a lull between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, and kind of reflecting on what the last 3 years mean. It's very, very easy, and I feel 100% at ease saying this, that this game and this community is really like unlike anything that we've seen from a gaming perspective or entertainment potentially, and it's been quite a ride.
I mean, the only thing I can even think of that would approach this level of camaraderie that we've had is possibly World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
I mean, it's I've seen it firsthand. My friend Ray, she moved to Minnesota, but she had her own guild and she was on all the time. But she was talking to people all around the world. They formed relationships, and I think she actually married somebody from her guild. So, like, in many ways, I see a lot of that same community building that these people from World of Warcraft had with regards to Destiny. And I'm just going to be interested to see how the community reacts to the game itself. Not so much the content in the game, because for the most part, kind of going back to what we were talking about, how I feel about Destiny 2, it's going to be very tough to capture the magic that was Destiny. And it's weird to think that it had magic, considering at the beginning, what story are we talking about?
Yeah, it's, I was just like, going to say, like, the amount of complaints that kind of built up now, and we joke and we laugh about, you look back and it's like, what were we doing? Like, why were we bashing our head against the wall trying to get ascendant shards or energy to get to max level, and that being really the only path. But
I think we did it so much just because it was so entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, just going into a raid and just like all the different cheeses and stuff that were involved in that raid, but we had so much fun, like going with different people and just seeing these different things for the first time, or the first few times anyway, and just, you know, kind of laughing at blowing myself up with a Gallahorn rocket or getting destroyed by some random hobgoblin on some random island in the Vault of Glass Templar well, and you can't do anything about it, and just like, oh my god, like again, like at a certain point when you're doing it again and again and again, and then you finally complete that mini puzzle to get to the next step, like you kind of grow as a team. Like you get it's a weird feeling that you have.
Yeah, like
you start trusting these teammates, not just in game, but with stuff outside of life. I mean, I can't even. This sounds like an NSA nightmare, but I've given people that I've never met in person my personal cell phones. Like, yo, here, like if you need something, text me, call me, or whatever. Like, what, like back like even 10 years ago. Like if I were to tell that to my parents, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Like, are you kidding me?"
What like it's just you're gonna give your phone to internet people.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to think about.
You mean you're going to go meet this guy and hope that he doesn't wear your face like a mask? Like...
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very weird thing to have with regards to this game. Just, it's become second nature, and I will always thank Bungie for creating this game because of that experience. I have had the best gaming experiences of my life with this game, and like that's why it's one of my favorite games of all time. Like it's weird for me to say that because I come from the background of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, single player games, the occasional Super Mario Kart or Super Bomberman with 4 people, and you know, then we went to Super Mario Kart 64 and GoldenEye, and like it still had to be like in person, but like we had
the couch co-op era of gaming.
And then all of a sudden, like this is my real first game where I say like I'm spending a lot of time online. Like I've played Call of Duty and multiplayer, but like I was never huge into first person shooters. Like I said, I came from that background of single player games from Nintendo and the occasional multiplayer game where we all had to be close together. So it was tough for me to transition from that couch co-op multiplayer style to online. It was always weird. Even when I was playing Halo, like Halo was a lot of fun and I spent a lot of time online, but I didn't add that many people that I played with online. Yeah. It didn't have that sense of community, and I know Bungie had active online forums, but I still kept it at an arm's length for comfort. This is the first time I've like gone full on in, like going into the forums, going into the different Facebook pages, going on different things, talking to different people, just group chatting all the time.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about where Bungie was at the time of Halo and where they are now. Like just talking about Bungie.net. Like I remember in Halo 2, actually probably Halo 3, the only time I really logged on to Bungie was to see what my medal count was. So it's evolved so much where you're going in there a lot more often to look at gear, what medals you've acquired, the TWAB clan information. There wasn't a need in Halo 3 potentially to try and really build a clan or play with a clan because it was all match made. And now with the no matchmaking in Destiny 1 and changing that over to the guided games in Destiny 2, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what kind of comes of the community and see if it kind of stays together moving forward after the launch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're absolutely right, where we've made friendships that are probably going to be potentially lifelong friendships. Like you and me, we've played Destiny for a long time. We're in a lot of the same communities, but it's not just, we don't just meet up to play Destiny. You know, now we're meeting up going and playing Mario Kart, or eventually Splatoon, or this, that, or the other thing. And it really all started from what Destiny was. And it's really interesting to think about where it's going to go from here.
Yeah, I mean, just yesterday we were having so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking Baby Park, this is all your fault. Anyway, we were playing Mario Kart till, I don't remember, until
your internet kicked you.
My entire house went down. I was like, oh,
yeah, it's convenient.
The light went off.
Evidently you're about to lose and your internet kicks out.
Come on, dude. I was waiting all night, and then all of a sudden, like the last lap, I'm gone. Come on. You can't put...
Yeah, absolutely.
You sit down with that nonsense.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I got it. The wire just jumped out of the port. I get it.
I'm about to hit you with a red shell. Anyway, no, like we've transitioned to other games because of this, and we're talking about all these games, and it's just it's all because of Destiny. And it's weird to know that the community has become so close knit because of stuff like that. Like, there's no other community out there since, I want to say, WoW. I'm probably hyping this community up, but there's solid evidence to back this up. I mean, we see it every single day.
Yeah.
We're talking to people from Australia, from the UK, from all over the United States. I've seen players from India, from South Africa, just literally around the world. I've played with Japanese people. I've done a raid where it was in full Spanish, and yes, I can speak Spanish fluently, but it was quite the shock when, like, the smallest thing, for example, we're doing Axis, and we have to get the servitors, and he's calling out, vacío a la izquierda, which means, literally translated, empty on the left. In Spanish, void servitor would be vacío. And I was like, what? I never would have thought that. So like I'm experiencing something different with the same community, just in different ways. It's so weird.
Yeah, I think this is really the first game that I've ever actually thought of myself as being this involved with a quote unquote community. Like when I was younger, I played tons of Call of Duty, tons of Halo, but I wouldn't really ever have said, hey, I'm part of this community. And that's completely changed with this game. But yeah, so it's been quite a ride so far.
So I kind of also want to introduce the community as to what your background is, because I know you from Fireteam Chat podcast, the Facebook group, and also from Cartridge Blast Gamers. So why don't you go ahead and give people a background about what your gaming experience has been like?
Well, when I was very young, first console was actually the Nintendo. I remember very distinctly playing a lot of Duck Hunt, a lot of Mario. Eventually got a lot of the games that came with the Nintendo system. You know, got Super Nintendo, great library, probably one of the best, if not the best, gaming console. From there, I don't think I missed a console other than maybe Dreamcast or Sega CD. I had all the PlayStations, had all the Nintendo consoles at one point or another. It's really hard for me to kind of look back and say, like, I played X amount of games, because I'm sure, just like you, there was a period of time where we could actually rent games from this crazy thing called video stores. And
Blockbuster, anyone?
what's that?
Blockbuster, anyone?
Yeah, Blockbuster. I used to have this little, they used to call it Lakeside Video, because when I grew up, it was around a lake. And it was just random video games. Like, you didn't really have much of a choice or much of a selection. It was like pretty much like one gondola, but I would go back in there periodically and pick up whatever game I haven't played. And some were good, some were really bad, but I still had those experiences. But yeah, when it comes to the consoles, pretty much I've had and I've played games on pretty much every single console, other than the Sega CD, Sega Saturn, and all that other that other jazz, as you can say. But so nowadays, I'm married. I have a son that's going to be 4 next month, and my time's a little bit more limited. But the great thing about what Destiny is that you have the ability to jump in and play a few hours a night. You can jump in and do a strike. You can jump in and do a raid for an hour or two. You can jump in and do Crucible. And I think that's the reason why it's kind of grabbed me for as long as it has, the entire 3 years that it's been out. But from not just looking at Destiny, some of the other games and genres I've played pretty much every single Call of Duty, at least a campaign, all the Halos, all the Gears of War, few Final Fantasies here and there. I'm sure I can go on and on. Right now, I'm currently jumping in and out of Overwatch. I've tried and start Dishonored 2 probably about 3 times at this point, but I keep getting pulled away most of the times by Destiny. But Mario Kart, as we talked about, so right. I've dabbled in a lot, but again, with limited time now. With having the family, it's pretty much my gaming addiction takes over my ability to sleep, and I'm okay with that, because as my college professors always used to say, I can sleep when I'm dead. So
right. So my question to you is, what were the genres that you mostly gravitated to while growing up?
See, it's really weird because I remember playing a lot when I was younger with the Nintendo consoles. I played, a lot of Sonic, a lot of Super Mario. At a certain point, probably, I want to say after 64 and PlayStation 1 came out, I kind of came off gaming for a little while. Like, I skipped and really passed up the God of War games. I remember on PS2, and I actually went back and played those games. But there was definitely a period of time, and it was probably my young teenage years chasing all the teenage girls. But there's definitely a time I dropped off. And then the next thing that really grabbed me and pulled me in was Call of Duty and Halo. And at that time, my youngest brother, we were sharing an Xbox 360. And that lasted about a hot minute. Because then I ran out, saved up my money, got a 360 for myself, and then we didn't have to share anymore. And that's when I realized that gaming's changed. And you have your own systems, and you have this whole online infrastructure that could really connect in an instant and host different games and different content online and party chats and all this amazing stuff. And that's really where I feel like I became a lot more interested in what was going on in the gaming world. Not just from like what games were coming out or what games I liked, but the actual business side of it, the news side of it, it was one of those things where probably even as far as, this year, all the way probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, it was always me pulling out my phone and checking what's on IGN, what's on my feed for Facebook. So it's not just a matter of wanting to play the games and playing as many games as I can, but it's really, I've taken to the idea of just having knowledge about games, because I feel like the actual business side of it and the different communities within it are sometimes a lot more interesting than some of the games that even come out. And it's not just Destiny. So
Yeah, I mean, the main reason I brought that up was I kind of wanted to see like what made you eventually gravitate to Destiny. Was it Bungie and their experience with Halo? Like what was the big thing that turned you on to Destiny?
I think that was part of it. You look at what they did with Halo and how special Halo was, and I remember playing Reach and being like, well, I guess this is the end of Halo, or at least that's what we thought at the time, before they pretty much put 343 together and made them the Halo studio. Mm-hmm. And you started seeing some of the leaked screenshots, and they started making a lot of these promises about this open world and all this content that we were going to get, and this interconnected social spaces and patrols. And I was like, this sounds like something I can actually sink my teeth into. And I remember going in and expecting like this big open like space opera. And obviously, we didn't really get that in Destiny 1. But the gunplay and the mechanics is really what kept me there. Because it's a Bungie game. It's a Bungie shooter. And those, to me, are pretty unrivaled when you're looking at what the shooter space is and what everybody else is doing from a video game development and the first-person shooter genre.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So, cool. No, I mean that's a good explanation. I think a lot of people definitely came over to Destiny simply because of the name Bungie. I think it's safe to say Activision knew just having the name Bungie was going to sell at least 2 million copies. Yeah. I don't think that in their wildest dreams they ever expected this game to be the billion seller that it is, where that game, Call of Duty, and I think it's Skylanders are the only $3 billion franchises that Activision has. So the amount of growth that this game had and the amount of potential it has in the future is just enormous. Yeah. And I'm always interested when I see that people come into this game, what their background is, like what led them to eventually come to this game. Because for me, you look at my background with games. I started Super Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt. Played a whole bunch of Nintendo games made by Nintendo. Ninja Turtles. Went to the Super Nintendo 64. It wasn't until later on, until the PlayStation's life, that I got the PlayStation. I got the Dreamcast. That was my first Sega system that I've owned, if you're not counting Game Gear. So like
Game Gear, I completely forgot about that console. I had that one though.
I don't even want to count how many consoles I've had. It's just embarrassing. but my experience has always been with Nintendo. So to go from heavy Nintendo, where it's just, exploring a world, getting power-ups, finding all the secret one-ups, finding the secret exits like in Mario World, to something like this where, yeah, you can definitely explore, but there's not much to explore. Yeah. For example, in Destiny, like I'm kind of switching the topic a little bit. In Destiny, I keep mentioning this on the show. When the beta came out, I remember going along the shores up to the area called the Grottos, and all the enemies there had, at the time, question mark for the power level. I get shot twice, I'm dead. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to go back there. And there's nothing there. So I hope that in this game, Destiny 2, there's a lot more of that there. Like, oh my God, there's question mark enemies. I probably should come back later on. And it seems like we're kind of going to get something like that, because if we looked at it, the lost sectors, that's the thing I'm really, really excited. I can't even describe how excited I am. Yeah. And I know that they're only supposed to be, 10 to 15 minute dungeons or whatever, but there's so much potential there. It almost reminds me of the Lost to Light mission, where for the Black Spindle, where it was a diversion from that main mission, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're like a mini dungeon. You're in the ship. You have to clear it out, and yeah, I'm super excited about that. So, out of everything that's been announced, what's the big thing that's really intrigued you for Destiny?
Well, 2? I just want to kind of add on to what the original question was about, like what kind of kept me with the community, and actually want your opinion on this, because there has been some news in regards to like exotic drop rates. With what really kept me going in year one is obviously the loot grind, and then the other side of it was playing with my friends in a situation, doing a strike, playing Crucible, where you can kind of just hang out and chat about your day and not necessarily even focus on what was going on. But going back to the loot question, they're saying it's going to be kind of somewhere in the middle from what Destiny 1 was and what Destiny is now. What are kind of your thoughts on that? Because to me, Destiny year one was definitely that hunt for a certain exotic, because it wasn't given to you. And you look at where it is now, like I have a decent amount of the exotics. I don't have every single one, like Jorge does. But it is one of those things, like people were chasing icebreakers, people were chasing hawk moons and Galahorns, and I'm curious to see what kind of an effect that you think it might have if they don't have some of those exotics or weapons or loot that eludes people for a long period of time.
So, with regards to that, I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem going forward with regards to having a specific weapon. And the reason I say that is this. We all know that in year one, everything had a large health pool. I mean, we spent hours trying to take down Valis to Arc's life, even on Solar.
Yeah.
So
hide behind the stairs.
Right. So they tuned down the health bars, and especially with this past update, the Age of Triumph update, they changed the health bar for Crota, so you could theoretically take them down with nothing but primaries, kind of like you do the Thalanok enemy in the Court of Oryx. Yeah. It's preferred that you do it with Galahorn because you could take him down real quick, but now it's not as much of a requirement. And given that you can get Hunger of Crota before you even fight Crota, like the first time you do that raid, like all of a sudden you get Hunger of Crota, you have more arsenal, a better arsenal to take on that boss. So I'm not concerned in that regard with regards to the future of there being weapons that are exclusively viable, actually I'll go ahead and say exclusively viable because Galahorn was that weapon for raids, because I think that Bungie has changed their perspective with regards to that. I mean, even Axis, where we now use Dark Drinker, even before that, like a good team could take down Axis without any Dark Drinkers, just nonstop shooting and using the cannons, just doing a lot of damage using the sniper rifle. So we had a pretty good understanding of how to take down that boss. It just made it a lot easier the second we got Dark Drink.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to have the same problems in year one, because they're really focused on what makes this fight the best possible fight, regardless of the weapon you have. regardless of the abilities that you have. Considering that everything is now going towards more offensive base, even the quote unquote defender, we don't know if it's truly gone or not. But the Sentinel power up for the Titan, he can create shields and defend against you, but then he can just as easily throw that shield like Captain America and take out a couple enemies. So I think that we're going to be okay, and there's not going to be an absolute need for
A certain weapon.
an exotic. I hope that a lot more of the exotics come in the way of quests or side quests or things that, like the lost sectors.
Yeah.
A secret lost sector that is, let's say, underground. You just passed over it the entire time, and if you just looked in this one section, it was there the whole time. You started you go through that lost sector, you get a strange item that opens up a quest that you have to complete, a very tough quest to get that exotic, and it feels great when you finally have it. I think that's the approach that they should take, because Black Spindle was always there in the game. It just had to be active for that day. And it was a tough experience, but when you got it, it was kind of like a trophy, but anybody could get that trophy theoretically. So I hope that that's the direction that they go with regards to exotics. I kind of like the randomness at the same time too, because the first time you got Galahorn, you screamed like a little girl. The first time you got Vex Mythoclast, you screamed. So there's always that excitement, and I still think that, for example, the end raid bosses, you kill Gary, you get a special exotic from that. You have a random chance. That's always part of the fun and adds value to that raid. So I think that's very important too. I think that the Three of Coins kind of it just nullified the excitement of exotics.
Yeah.
At the same time too, it was a 1-2 combo with the Three of Coins. You had too many exotics that you got, and then you had exotics that just didn't do much. Like, for example, the Hereafter sniper rifle. It's okay. You kill something with a headshot, it creates some light and blinds enemies. Yeah. Not all that useful. I can't think of too many scenarios where that's useful. Even in the one scenario I could think of that would be viable was the stills in Crota's End, but that's old content. Yeah. There's nothing in the new content where you're constantly being surrounded by enemies that would be useful. So I think that they need to go back, make these exotics feel powerful yet balanced, and then go from there, because it was always exciting in year one. Oh my god, I got Hawk Moon. Oh my god, I got an Invective. Oh my god, Icebreaker. Oh my god, just Galahorn. Just every single week there was Thorn. Even when during its heyday, not Sleeper Simulant. What is it called? The fusion rifle. I'm going to get murdered for this. I'm so
Plan
C?
C?
Murdered. No, not Plan C. The other one that you got from a quest. You would hold on and would auto shoot everything in the magazine. I'm going to get destroyed. I apologize.
From Vogue?
Yeah, from year one.
Oh, from the quest, the from doing the Vanguard bounties, the Pocket Infinity.
Thank you very much. Oh my god! Wow, wow. Even that one, it felt exciting. There was a lot of utility for all these different exotics. And in year two, that's when things started going downhill with regards to exotics.
I agree.
I mean, in year two, the year one version, the year two versions of year one exotics were the most powerful. There very rarely was a need to use any year two exotics going forward. Even in year three, a lot of these exotics, not all that special.
That's what my kind of worry is with Destiny 2 is, and Bungie has their work cut out for them. They have to make these weapons a viable option so people want to go out and actually grab them and spend time grinding for it. And seeing how powerful year one weapons were, they were overpowered, but they were something to kind of chase after because they were overpowered. For me, Zen Meteor was in I guess it was year 3, right? Yeah.
Year 2. It was with the April update.
So that one eluded me for a while, but it really didn't have an effect on what I was doing, whether it be PvE or PvP or anything like that. But it was something I just wanted to want. But there were obviously benefits to having things like the Galahorn or Hawkmoon or Thorn in PvP, and I worry that Bungie has to come up with an idea or with a plan for these exotics to be sought after, because even now, like playing PvP, like I don't really need a specific exotic to go in and play PvP. A lot of it's all legendary other than the icebreaker, but that's because of the ammo issue. So I feel like they kind of have their work cut out for them with Destiny 2 and exotics and the loot grind.
I mean, me personally, what I would do, and again, I have no proof that this is what they're going to be doing, but we already know that in Destiny 2, every one of the exotics are going to have some sort of lore behind it. And you can read about the lore of, let's say, Thorn or whatever. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have Thorn in year 2, Destiny 2. At least not for the foreseeable future. They may put it back in later on. But let's just use the example of Thorn. We could read about Thorn, and it takes us on a, like, let's say that, okay, we're in a lost sector. We get the blueprints for Thorn, or we get the dead version of Thorn. It's not active. It's just a dead weapon. That starts a quest, and from the quest, we learn about Thorn. We learn about whatever, and then we finally get Thorn in the final part. Like, each one of these weapons, these exotics, should have some sort of quest. Like, let's say, oh my god, I got Galahorn. I finally have it. And we go through the quest to power it up to make it's a special version of Galahorn. So you have two versions. Like, you have the version where you start the quest, you finish the quest, all of a sudden you get the exotic, and then there's another version where you get the dead, quote unquote, dead version of the exotic, and you learn about the story, which may tie into other characters. Like, that's the thing I've liked about a lot of these exotics, whether they were good or not, or whether they, were useful. A lot of these exotics had very interesting stories. I mean, this past, not Age of Triumph, but the Dawning update in December, they introduced the Abaddon and the Nova Mortis, and they went into story about Thunderlord. Like, Thunderlord, I can't speak. Start that
Thunderlord.
Thunderlord. Thundercats. Oh,
Anyway, we're back into late 1980s, right?
Yeah,
when did Thundercats come
out? Sometime in the 80s. So, yeah, everybody who just heard me say that just went full on. But anyway, with regards to Thunderlord, like, we learn about the story of Thunderlord. It was created by a Titan, I believe. And he used Thunderlord in the final battle on Moon when they were under siege by Crota. Like that, and they lost the plans to Abaddon and Nova Mortis at that battle. So you're basically reclaiming these pieces through that quest. It's a small, stupid quest, but it's still story that's in the game. That's something interesting to me. Yeah. Like, I want things to do that lead to stories so I can learn more about this world that I'm fighting to protect. And that's always cool. Now, I want there to be more of a quest than what we got for Abaddon and Nova Mortis. And I'm pretty sure that they didn't have that much time to really do much for those weapons. But at least there was something there, some way to earn them. And that's what I always appreciated about that. So I hope that they go in that direction going forward in Destiny 2 with the occasional random drop from a boss, like a giant boss at the end, or let's say you complete one of the lost sectors, you have a random chance of getting a rocket launcher exotic. Just something that keeps you on your toes, gets you like a random loot. You're like, oh my god, I got something like that. That moment is always cool.
Yeah.
And I'm always excited for moments like that.
The lost sectors, I am very excited about, just like you are. And I feel like it is the easiest thing to get us excited, but then disappoint us. So I'm hoping it is exactly what we want and what we're thinking it's going to be. And it's not just going to be like this quick thing, and then we're going to get some sort of planetary materials or something like that we feel like we don't need. But
right. I mean, from what I'm taking from them, and again, I may be kind of overblowing them, but it almost feels like you played Horizon Zero Dawn, so you'll get this reference.
Love that game.
The Corrupted Zone.
Sorry.
Yes. So they almost feel like the Corrupted Zones. Like you go and have to clear a zone, and sometimes the zones are rather large and expansive. Yeah. Every so often you'll come upon the zone that has that I forget the name of the dino.
Yeah, corruption zone or more of the cauldrons.
No, the cauldrons I would link more to say strikes, but like the corrupted zones, I would from what I'm seeing so far, and we have very limited information because right now that's all they gave us. But with regards to the lost sectors, a 10 to 15 minute mini dungeon with a boss at the end. That's almost kind of what I'm getting from the corrupted zones, where they're more powerful versions of the normal enemies. And I don't know if you encountered this corrupted zone when you were playing Horizon.
I did them all.
There's a zone. Okay, so you remember the one with the I forget the name of the Dinobot now, but the one that goes under he goes underground and then he pops up.
That bastard.
That one.
He wrecked my face the first time I came across him. That was the first time I came across that enemy type. I got destroyed.
Yeah, the very first time I ever encountered that enemy type was that corrupted zone, and I was like, oh my god, I got obliterated. But like, it could be just as small as that, where you fight one large boss that's like obscenely strong.
Randall the Vandal 2.0.
To something where it's more dungeon-like. Almost like a mini strike, so to say. So I'm excited for these, for the possibility that it could be something bigger. I just hope Patrol is really as big and as expansive as they say. I'm a little again, we don't know anything about what the game is like, but they only mentioned that the European Dead Zone is about twice as large as the largest patrol area that we have in Destiny 1, which I'm assuming they would be talking about Cosmodrome, because it is pretty big, but if it's only 2 times that size, like, I'm trying to think of how much content you could fit in there before you kind of do the Destiny 1 thing, where your strikes are going through areas that you can get on patrol.
And
I hope that a lot of more of the strikes kind of take the route of the strike from Rise of Iron, the Wretched Eye, where you can go to the first 2 areas, you can go on patrol, but once that big door opens up, all of that is strictly strike area. I want to see more of that, where it's just strictly strike area. You cannot access that on regular patrol. If you want to go there, you have to do the strike. I kind of like having strikes be like the dungeons, like its own little thing.
And the interesting thing about the European Dead Zone, we talked about this on the Cartridge Blast podcast. It was probably last week or the week before that. Jason Schreier had information about pretty much what happened when the story kind of collapsed with Destiny 1. And evidently, and I feel like, I don't remember if you talked about this last week or not, but the European Dead Zone was actually meant to be for Destiny 1, and it was evidently the best part of Destiny 1. And they scrapped it, or they changed it, or they pulled it out as they got closer to launch, because I guess of everything that happened. And now I guess they're revamping it and putting it out there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this area is, how much lore is behind it, and what the moment-to-moment gameplay is going to be as you're kind of patrolling this area.
Yeah, I read what you're talking about, and I'm really, really excited for that because when they were like, "Yo, this is the most exciting thing in Destiny. It's completely different from what you've experienced," and then them to take all of that out, I'm like, "Oh, jeez, missed opportunity."
Shucks.
But thankfully, we're getting it. Yeah, we're getting it in, and I'm excited because I mean we've seen the European Dead Zone in a couple Crucible maps, and when you go there, like the first one, Widow's Court, like there's not much going on. It's quote unquote Call of Duty like, but when you go to the other one, the other European Dead Zone, it's completely surrounded by at least 4 catches. There's a battle going on in the background. You're like, we're doing Crucible in the middle of a war.
Sounds like my kind of party.
Like I want to know like what's going on. Why is there a war here? Like, why aren't we getting involved in this? Like, I understand that, you know, we got that big hive god over there in the rings of Saturn, but like we got this thing right here. Like, why aren't we getting involved here? Like, that's like, and I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of that because, I mean, we already know that there's going to be Fallen in the game. They confirmed it kind of in the Fire Team Chat the podcast where they interviewed Luke Smith, and he's talking about the particle effects from the Shanks being blown up. So I'm like, okay, we know Fallen are in there. So I'm excited to see what happens with the Fallen in the European Dead Zone. I'm assuming that we're going to be fighting the Fallen there. I'm really excited for the concept that is the European Dead Zone. What that means for us, like retaking that land and just all the different things from Patrol. I think I'm most excited for Patrol. I'm really excited for the story, don't get me wrong, and all the different planets. But from what I've seen so far with regards to the planets, it's a lot more of what we've seen before. We've seen Venus. It's kind of same with Nessus. So I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm going in with an open mind, but I'm more excited over that European Dead Zone because if we think about it, they've had at least 3 years to let this European Dead Zone marinate and build it up and make it even more special.
It better be special.
Oh.
Better go in there and just be chaos everywhere.
Dude, I'm a fan of chaos. I just want to get surrounded by like 50 legions of captains with vandals and dregs, and then like seven Kells just like looking at me. I'm like, I got this.
You get the fist bump emo and you just go to town.
Exactly. Like go Fist of Havoc like Zavala. I got this.
Freaking roaming supers now, so you can do that.
Oh, yo, I can't wait. I'm so excited over Fist of Havoc, and we've already have it. But I just want to like pow, and then just see him charge at somebody and like, oh, shoulder charge, you're dead.
Voidwalker for life over here.
I can already
wants roaming Nova bombs. I just want to spray purple rain everywhere.
Yo, you know what I'm hoping for with regards to Nova Bomb? I hope he can turn that sucker into a Kamehameha wave. That you can actually turn the wave,
a hole in the world
and have it go after somebody.
Just blow a hole in the world. Just take out everybody.
Oh my.
You see that raid? That's the entrance over there. No, not anymore.
It's like you can go down. we got this. Like a whole team of Voidwalkers just shoots the Kamehameha wave at the claw ship.
It sounds fine with me.
Like
I don't think that's overpowered at all. You know, I think the Voidwalkers need something extra. Just saying. I'm totally not a warlock main.
We killed Gary. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I'm excited for with regards to Destiny 2, and I'm just interested to see the evolution of the game from what we've had in Destiny 1. I can't wait for September 8th. I'm really, really excited. I can't even wait for the unannounced beta. I mean, we it's been announced, but we don't know when we're gonna get it. Bungie, please.
I think it'll be soon. We'll know by E3 at least.
I'm hoping very, very soon. But yeah, I think we got a good amount of stuff talked about there. Is there something else you want to bring? By the way, I will be posting links in the show notes to Cartridge Blast Gamers for their Facebook group
and Twitter.
I will also be posting their Twitter,
and my Twitter,
their YouTube. So make sure that you guys check that out. Anything else you want to bring up real quick before we add this?
I do just want to talk about the dedicated servers conundrum real quick.
Oh, yes.
That was in the TWAB. And maybe you can explain it to me better than what I read.
So the way it works now is it's currently peer-to-peer servers, which is not all that dissimilar from our Napster days, where you would download, a file from somebody else's computer. You're basically downloading the information from somebody else's, for example, PS4 of what they're doing. In this game, it's still kind of peer-to-peer with Bungie servers. So the information gets transmitted to Bungie servers. You're still having your experience on your own console. A pure peer-to-peer system, your experience wouldn't be happening on your console. So enemies would be loaded, and whatever happens to that quote-unquote dedicated server, if, let's say, something happened to the dedicated server, then your game would go and play terribly. But if your console is having fun, you're killing enemies, and there's an issue with the dedicated server, your immediate situation won't be as affected. I honestly don't know. So I would be...
Everything you just said was just throwing stuff at the wall. No.
Well, based on what I'm reading, in fact, I can go ahead and read exactly what's going on. This was Matt Seeger, the engineering lead on Destiny 2. We've seen a lot of people asking about how networking model works for Destiny 2. Many are concerned by our announcement last week that Destiny 2 doesn't have dedicated servers. While that's useful shorthand, the full answer is more complex because Destiny has a unique networking model. Rest assured that we're doing a lot of testing right now with players all around the world and working hard to make sure that your experience is going to be smooth on launch day. So every activity in Destiny 2 is hosted on one of their servers. That means you will never again suffer a host migration during your raid attempt or trials match. This differs from Destiny 1, where these hosting duties were performed by player consoles and only script and mission logic ran in the data center. So, like I mentioned, what happens on your console, like you're the host, let's say you're on my fire team, if my console goes down, then that's where issues start happening. So, in this instance for Destiny 2, both the mission host and the physics host will run in the data center. And with regards to Destiny 2, they're going to be using a hybrid of client-server and peer-to-peer technology. So you still have your experiencing going on in your situation, that you feel like the moving and the shooting is happening flawlessly on your side. But the information, such as the mission logic and what's going on, when you pew, what does the pew hit? Like that's all happening on Bungie side. So you have a mix of things going on. It's hard to really understand what this logic is without seeing it in person. A lot of people have experienced, for example, Battlefront with their dedicated servers and how it went flawlessly, but that's an expensive, sometimes not entirely sustainable thing. Whereas if you have something like this, a hybrid system, not only is it going to be cheaper, but in the long run, it's also going to make you feel like things are running smoother on your side. Like what is happening on all 6 of our consoles in this raid, we see what's happening and it's feeling great. You're not going to have the situation where like you shot an acolyte 700 times. He's still standing there, not doing anything. You're like, what just happened here? So I think that this version of dedicated servers has a lot of potential for great experiences, especially with a raid and trials. But I would just be speculating with regards to the technical information, and I don't want to do that. But I'm excited to see the game perform as it's supposed to be.
I did want to just kind of jump in on that, and a lot of people were kind of very shocked about the no dedicated servers. And if you look at what they've been doing with Call of Duty for the last 3-4 years, pretty much everything after Call of Duty Ghosts, and I know you and me have talked about this probably at like nauseum at this point, but if you're looking at what Activision is doing, they made that choice a long time ago that the dedicated servers just weren't worth the financial burden. So when people were hoping that Destiny 2 was going to have the dedicated servers, I was very hesitant to even get kind of excited about it because of what we knew about what they did with Call of Duty. And I'm assuming what they do with Call of Duty is going to be a very similar model to what this is. And it's the first time that we're hearing about it because Bungie's actually talking to the community about it. But I have a feeling that they're probably running something very similar behind the scenes with the Call of Duty multiplayer at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have much experience in Call of Duty. I did play Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3. Very rarely did I play multiplayer, so I can't really talk on that. But I do know, I mean, a lot of people haven't been, let's just say that the online system for Call of Duty hasn't been that bad.
It's gotten pretty bad. I feel like it's gotten pretty bad lately, but I think that's just because of player base dropping off.
Right. I mean, Destiny had that experience not too long ago. So, I mean, the fact that they're going to 4v4 is a direct response, I think, to what happened with regards to Crucible.
Final question
it's kind of like a preemptive
from me to you, actually, is that do you think the 4v4 is a good idea? And do you think it's going to really, really help out with the connection issues?
I think, and I'm not that I'm ignoring your question, but I'm going to refer back to something that was mentioned in that Fireteam Chat podcast interview with the developers, where they said that they developed Midtown specifically for that new PvP mode. And I think that that's a better response to Crucible than having, like, for example, a lot of people absolutely hate playing on Pantheon because it's a large, stretched out map. And yes, you can have 6 people on each team comfortably, but eventually, like, it all funnels into one section on each side. And then you have these snipers shooting you down. Whereas if you have, let's say, a map dedicated specifically to control, and it's more symmetrical, and you can see, like, control points are evenly placed and such, I think that would work out more for a 4v4 game mode than a 6v6. So I think that's where the improvements are going to come into play with regards to the game. It's still going to stink because some of these game modes, like, it's fun to go in with 6 people into, say, Control or Clash or whatever, and just, you know, go and have fun with friends. But I think that the 4v4 game mode forced the Bungie developers to, or the Destiny developers, I should say, to kind of look at how they do map placement and design with regards to their game modes more so than like a 6v6 game mode would do. Because a 6v6 game mode, you would have to have much larger maps. And not that that's always a bad thing, but sometimes, like, for example, Sky Shock, like, that's a map where you feel like you're going through Normandy. You're just going to get bombed, and you don't know where the shot came from. Whereas a game mode that's specifically, or a map that's specifically designed for that game mode, That's where you get that fun action.
So yeah. Destiny 2
So
around the corner.
I can't wait.
Did you take vacation yet? You take your time off?
I already did.
Too.
I took those days off from the 8th all the way through my birthday, actually.
Well, if I forget, because I'm up in arms with Destiny 2, happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'm just trying to get it out there. I don't want to forget.
All right. And with that, we want to thank you all for listening to this week's episode of In Orbit. We're available on a ton of different platforms, so make sure that you all are spreading the word. The best way to do that is to share In Orbit with others. We're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Overcast for iOS, Downcast for iOS, Google Play Music, Stitcher Smart Radio, Player.fm, Pocket Cast. Pretty soon we're going to have YouTube. In fact, by the time this show is up, we'll probably also have that on YouTube. And we're also going to have an RSS feed. Well, we already have that, I should say. Links are available for each of those platforms right on the Mash Those Buttons website at www.mashthosebuttons.com. Make sure that you stay tuned after the show to hear what's coming next on Mash Those Buttons. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the Mash Those Buttons network at www.mashthosebuttons.com/shows to see all of our podcasts. For any questions regarding scheduling, check mashthosebuttons.com/schedule for scheduling details. You can check us out on twitter.com/mtbsite, twitter.com/inorbitpodcast, facebook.com/mashthosebuttons, youtube.com/mashthosebuttons, and Carmine, where can people find you at?
You can find me at Carmine J on Twitter. You can also hit us up on the handle of at Cartridge Blast Gamers on Twitter. Our YouTube channel is just pretty much search Cartridge Blast Gamers and we'll show up and you can see our content. We do Let's Plays. We have our podcasts every single week, and the 3 topics from the podcast actually get put up on video versions on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But also check out the Facebook group. I'm pretty active on it because I'm active on all the Facebook groups that I have and that me and Jorge overlook. So that's the best way to kind of reach out is probably reach out to me on Facebook. So.
Yep. And on Facebook, just search Cartridge Blast Gamers and the original site, the one, the only Fire Team Chat Podcast, the fan group. Search that out on Facebook. Join. We'd be happy to
I
have
really
you
want to get to 9,000.
on
I have a ton of 9,000 memes ready to go. Like over 9,000. There's just going to be a ton of Vegeta that
day. And as always, you can always find me on all the network sites and gaming platforms via my screen name, Go2NRG. That's GO, the number 2, NRG. Make sure to contact us with any questions to inorbitpodcast@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at twitter.com/inorbitpodcast. My prior events are not a memory. It is momentum. It advances, leads, and controls, points and directs, shapes and forms. I may not enjoy everything that lies in front of me, but as in any story, the past needs resolution. We are the authors. The finishers are our fate. What is in my past is my prologue, and what is in my future is my destiny. On behalf of the entire In Orbit team, David, Jordan, Jarrett, and myself, and this week Carmine, we thank you for listening to our show, and as always, we'll see you on the next mission. Your destiny calls.